Hey, let's go live for a little bit right here. Come on. Let's do a little Pond Boss music.
To make all my love big dreams come true.
So here we go. Going live here on YouTube Live. I've never done this. So let's hang out together and figure this game out. So I tried to set this up where I could let everybody know I was going live, and I don't know how it works, but here we are. So let's go. Come on, bring me some questions. Let's go live on YouTube. Enjoy ourselves, and let's talk about ponds and lakes. So I don't know, several months ago, we started talking about it with John Dyer and said, you know what, why don't we switch over from Facebook Live? Because Facebook Live is kind of fun. It's but the thing is, you kind of got to save your videos and upload them to YouTube. So why not just go to YouTube? So here we are. So let's go live. I'm getting some text. Let me see here. Well, okay, Babe Miltonberger, I'm on. Let's see. He's asking me where I am. I'm on YouTube. So, hey, Babe, switch over, dude. It's either me or you, YouTube. I'm on YouTube. So, we set up a pre-scheduled thing. I don't know how to play. I'm old. Can't see it though. Okay. So go to the Pond Boss channel. I have no idea how this works, but here's what I know: we got 4 people watching. This looks like I don't know how to be able to tell who that is. Hey, y'all chime in, dude. This is my first rodeo on this little venue, so let's just have a little fun. So let's talk about ponds. So I got several texts over the last few days. Greg McMillan sent me a video. He's got a pond, 2.5, 3 acres in Argyle, Texas, and he's really pushing the limits on that pond. Okay, babe, come on. So y'all let me pause for a minute because Bay's pretty important to me. Find it, Bay. Come on, Bay. I don't know where you're hanging out tonight, but let's hang out together. Yep. Okay. So Bay found it. So we've got 8 viewers, looks like, 1 like. Hell, I don't know how this works. So, there's Harrison Davis. He says, Happy New Year. John Dyers, he's going to post this link on the other stream. I have no idea how this works. So what? You know what? I'm not going to sit here and apologize for what I'm not being able to do and how stupid I am about this. Let's talk about ponds and lakes because I'm pretty good at that. So Greg McMillan sent me a pretty cool video where he had like 75 cormorants, water turkeys, landing on his 3-acre pond in Argyle, Texas. Now, the thing about Greg is a student. He is learning about this stuff. He's figuring it out, and he's got the means to do it, and he's really pushing this pond, and he's got, look at there's Jacob West, YouTube Live, baby. Proud of the Pond Boss. And we're going to talk about Jacob West and his daddy Bob here in a minute. Daddy Bobby West. We love Bobby and Jacob and the whole West family. And I'm rambling, so let me kind of rein it in here a little bit. So Greg McMillan was this 2.5, 3-acre pond, Argyle, Texas, south of Denton, north of where Rolling was Meyer. Oh, okay. So Bay just owned an error. Bay, you don't mess up. You know how this game works. I've watched you for a long time. All right. So Greg McMillan had a video where he sent me where he's got like 75 cormorants on his 2.5-acre pond. Well, Greg is really pushing that pond. He's learning about water chemistry. That's his number 1 limiting factor is water chemistry. He's figured that out. He's working with Landon Wyatt with Aquafix and Natural Lake Biosciences. to make sure his water stays happy. But when you've got 75 water turkeys on a 3-acre pond, they're going to eat every fish in the freaking dadgum. Scott and Leah Groons, there they are. Holy cow, good to see you from Beggs, Oklahoma. Randy Baycorn from West Virginia. So what Greg McMillan did was he figured out a way. So he's got a little paddle boat. So he tethered the boat. He bought a mannequin. He is in the beauty space, like beauty supply space. He's figured out how to buy these companies, beef them up, ramp them up, make them profitable. And he was able to buy a mannequin, like a GI mannequin. He put in his boat, he put a fishing pole in his hand, and with the fishing pole, he put some aluminum pie pans out there. So this boat's out there kind of swinging around, tethered to an anchor, spooking off the cormorants, which is pretty daggum cool. John Henry from Arkansas, Jacob West. So you know what? This might end up being kind of fun. So you guys bring some questions because I'm kind of dancing on air here. So Jacob sent a few pictures with Bobby a while ago. Bobby is Jacob's dad. They just got through building 2 hatchery ponds out there at the West Haven Ranch. So listen to this. The Institute of Higher Pondology is coming up in May and October. If you have not signed up for that, it's $1,500. Yeah, it's a big amount of money. So what? You will save that much money in the dumb tax that you will not pay as you're managing your lakes and ponds. Well, Otto came out and built a couple of hatchery ponds for them. They've got those 2 hatchery ponds almost full. The tilapia are coming up in the big lake, 15-acre lake, and they're starting to die off, and the bald eagles are freaking out there eating those things. So that's great. So let's see here. Hey, fam, can I raise a pond for only? Oh, yeah. I like to stay away from the mess of video. Yeah, absolutely. So that's what's going on at West Haven Ranch. They've got these 2 hatchery ponds. They're about, quarter to half an acre each. And they're going to be raising a whole lot of bluegills to supplement the fishery there at on their 15-acre lake. So now, you know what? I tell you, I'm a big proponent now of hatchery ponds. With the nature of the beast of the pond management business, there's not enough fish farms out there that can produce enough forage fish to supply everybody. So if you've got a really nice fishing lake, it's a great idea to build a hatchery pond or 2 hatchery ponds like what Bobby and Jacob have done to be able to grow some forage fish to supplement your bait fish. Because the number one issue in almost every predator-prey relationship pond, bass pond, if you will, is to be able to cull enough bass or cull enough predator fish, whether they're smallmouth, hybrid stripers, whatever they are, to be able to keep the forage food going well. Let's see here. I raised a pond only for forage. Yeah, okay. Hey there from mid-Michigan. Found you. Sweet. I've been waiting in the other live stream. Well, I'm glad you're here. So, Ann Shavetta. Hey, Ann. I hope you're hanging out with your husband, too. Glad you're there. So, let's see. Jeremy Day says, July 2-inch bass stock, caught 11-inch bass today and 6-inch bass. No, there's no chance they spawn. How can they be so different? It's just the best of the best. That's absolutely what it is. So, Jeremy, when you stock 2-inch bass in July, they don't all grow at the same rates. I mean, they're like any other livestock. They're like any other animal. They're going to grow at different rates. So some are going to grow faster than others. Some are going to grow slower than others. So when you have an 11-inch bass, odds are exactly the same as a 6-inch bass. So that 6-inch bass is the same age as that 11-inch bass. The 11-inch bass is one of the best of the best. Harrison Davis, what's the largest largemouth bass you have ever heard of that consumes fish feed? 8 pounds. So the way that works is when a largemouth bass is conditioned to eat fish food, that's what they are. So they're conditioned to eat that fish food. So here's the backstory on that. This is tracking back to the mid 80s. I started in 1980, January the 1st, and Inslee started their fish farm in 1986, I think. So their gig was they wanted to grow northern strain largemouth bass, train them to fish food, and grow them up to like 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds, sell them to the food fish market on the left coast and the right coast. That's what they did. So we started stocking some of those fish, probably 91, 92, into sport fish ponds. So what we figured out is those northern strain bass, they would eat fish food. They're aggressive. They would eat fish food, but they would top out like at 8 pounds, and so there's not a certain age that they won't eat fish food. If they've been conditioned to eat fish food, they'll eat fish food until the point that they start to decline. Greg McMillan, I enjoyed. So Greg, I was just talking about you, dude, talking about your cormorants and your mannequin. And I'm going to write an article for the March, April issue. And we're going to include your pictures in there. We're going to talk about how to get rid of cormorants. Greg says he enjoyed Josh Sackmar's article in the latest Pond Boss magazine. I liked what not to do perspective. That's huge. Some of the most popular articles we've had in Pond Boss. Oh, wait, hold up. Pond Boss, genetic study. There's Sarah Parvin's lake. Sarah Parvin is coming to the next Institute of Higher Pondology. Guess what she's going to talk about? Bluegill. So you know what? If you have not signed up for the next Institute of Higher Pondology, that is really, really fun. We will help you save the dumb tax. And so some of the most popular articles that we published in Pond Boss is about what not to do. And, it took me a while, palm to forehead moment, to figure out that people were just as interested, even more interested in what not to do. Sherman Wyman wrote an article, oh my gosh, this had to be like 2005, 20 years ago. He was looking at building a 30-acre lake on his ranch in Clay County, Texas, right on the Red River, northeast of Henrietta, Texas. And he had a site where he could build a 30-acre lake. And it would not cost that much. He would be able to build a pretty nice dam. It was going to block a drainage that flows straight into the Red River. But what he figured out was if he did that, he was going to cut off a path where deer, Kansas genetics deer that had migrated into Oklahoma, were coming across to his ranch across the Red River. And if he built that dam, he'd cut off that travel path. So he had a wildlife travel path. And if he were to shut that off to grow a bunch of fish, he'd stop his deer migration. He'd stop wildlife migration. And he decided not to do it. So that was a pretty dadgum smart decision on his. What not to do. You know what? Okay, so Greg, you and I are going to be talking about that. We'll have a conversation in the next couple of days about what not to do, because truly those are outstanding articles. You know what? If you've not subscribed to Pond Boss, $35 a year, and you guys that have followed this on Facebook know what I'm going to say. Jacob West, say it out loud. Is Bobby with you? $35 a year. Bay, I know Bay's talking about this. $35 a year, cheaper than a Friday night date, and it lasts a year. And you'll get all kinds of nuggets out of each issue, I promise. Okay, Kane Street Concept 6749. That's a long name. Plan is a creek to raise the forage to stock it to a 10-acre pond. I love that idea. SCA Schmabs 2179 Washington from Morgantown, West Virginia. I love West Virginia. I haven't been there in a while. Let's see here. Let me back up. William Scheidegger. What temperature should I start feeding? It was around 55 or 60 degrees water temperature, air temperature, if I remember correctly from your videos. Happy your friend told us to come to this live stream. Okay, so what I typically tell people is And this winter's been a kind of a weird winter. Water temperature here's the deal. The majority of the fish stop coming to feed around 55 degrees. Bluegills stop at 46. But, channel catfish, feed train bass, bluegills, they're going to feed pretty heavily from 55 on up. Chico, howdy. Golly, I'm so glad to see you. John Funk from Michigan. Yep, okay. Central Indiana, just under an acre pond, average day of 11 foot, about 5 years ago, 5 years old, stock 750 bluegills. First year. Okay, well, I think that's a great idea. Let's see, so Dean Cutler, have a 5 acre pond in Georgia that has a lot of flow through. What can I do to ensure that I can grow trophy bass? I had forage fish twice a year and have 2 feeders that run your. Dude, you're really doing the things right. So you know what? I expect we have a new audience here, but you guys that have come over from Facebook Live, you guys know what I talk about. So there's 5 concepts. Let's do this dance, fellas. Number 1, happy water. If you have the happy water, healthy water, doesn't have to be clear. Fish don't care if it's clear. Matter of fact, they'd rather it not be clear. Happy water with the right kind of habitat for the different species of fish that you're trying to grow. The right food chain for all those fish. With the right genetics for your part of the country and a harvest plan, you're going to be able to grow some really, really, really good fish. Chad Lawyer, 4891, Central Indiana, just under an acre pond, average of 11 feet about 5 years ago. Okay, so you know what? That's a good stocking rate. Chris Chavetta. Chris is hanging out with Ann, and they don't even know each other. Wait a minute. They're married. And Ann is watching. Chris is watching. She's on her phone. He's on his phone. Y'all need to hold hands, although I know you do. Husband, wife. I love the Chavettas. From St. Louis, Missouri, by the way, in Innsbruck. All right, so what can I do to ensure I can grow what you can do to ensure you can grow trophy bass, Dean Cutler, is to be sure you have the right kind of habitat, that your water stays clean. If you have a lot of flow through, that's actually a good thing. I used to be kind of spooked by flow through water. However, especially in Georgia, North Carolina, South Cackalack, areas over there like that, when the water's flowing through, the pH is typically kind of low. But if you're making sure you got the fish have the right kind of food, the right kind of habitat, they're going to thrive. And you can take a lake that you could look at it kind of like a lemon, make it lemonade. That's going to be good. Jeremy Day, I love your buddy. Oh, you know what? Wade Bales. I cannot wait to see Wade. So I get to give the keynote address at the Society of Lake Management Professionals coming up in Florida, Lake Buena Vista, later on this month. And they've invited me to come give the keynote address. I have hair. This is my wife's doing here. I'm old. What's the deal about hair? She likes it. But I'm going to give the keynote at the SLMP. Honored to do that. And I get to talk about the history of pond management. Just to kind of entertain you with that a little bit. When I started, I graduated from Texas A&M in December of 1979, and I hung up my shingle by leasing a fish farm in January of 1980. Now, I chuckle at all this because I love listening to people gripe and complain about prime rates of 6%. You know what it was in 1980? 18%. I was borrowing money at Parker Square Bank, banker Douglas James, Wichita Falls, Texas, in 1980 at 2 points over prime. I was paying 20 to 22% freaking interest on borrowed money so I could raise fish and figure out how to create a business. Well, there was no pond management industry at that point. The state of Texas has stopped giving away free fish at that point in 1980. So it was about that time I started seeing where people were willing to start buying fish. And when they bought the fish, heck, they were thinking about they had to take care of them. So that's part of how the pond management industry was built. So I ran off on a tangent there. So let's see. Yeah. So Jeremy Day says about the Smartfish app. Wade Bales, that guy's a stud. He is a true fisheries biologist, a true capitalist, a true American. And take a look at the Smartfish app. That way you can log your fish in on your phone. You can see how well they're doing. It'll give you an immediate score on those fish. So Chad Lawyer says 90 bass following your how many panfish do I need? You don't really need to you don't need to start keeping any panfish. Look at the relative weights of your bass. If you guys don't have our Pond Boss Excel spreadsheet, send us an email at info@pondboss.com and we will send you that spreadsheet and you will be able to plug in your links and weights and see how your fish compare to the standards. Then that can help you decide whether or not you need to harvest any fish. Most of the time, you don't need to harvest any pan fish. It kind of depends on the population structure of your bass and your bluegill. William Scheidegger, we have a 10-acre lake here in Northeast Ohio with natural spring and downhill on our property. So there's decent flow, and I'm wondering how much fish food is too much fish food to feed. Too much fish food is what they won't eat in about 10 minutes. So if you're feeding fish and they're eating it, feed it. If they start getting to the point where they're not eating it, back it off a little bit and feed a really high quality feed, especially in Ohio. You really need to feed a high protein. Look at Aquamax MVP, Purina's Aquamax Sport Fish MVP. That's a great feed to feed in Northeastern Ohio. That way, and you can feed them what they will consume over that span of time. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If there's fish still floating on the top of the water in 10 minutes, you're feeding more than they need. And then you answered your own question. Allow the fish to feed. Yeah, there you go. Harrison Davis. Let me see here what Harrison's got. Uh-oh. Is it possible for a largemouth bass to be too big for too long, and that reduces the bass's lifespan? No, not really. So here's what Chris Chavetta says. I'm in Orlando working. Well, we all need to be somewhere working. I'll be in Orlando later on this month. Hello, Bill Schrum. Good to see you. Deb and Brian from Northwest Illinois. Good to see you guys. So I want to go back to Harrison. Is it possible for a largemouth bass to be too big for too long, and that reduces the bass's lifespan? The bass's lifespan is, okay, here's my take on that. A fish has so many heartbeats. The cooler the water, the longer the bass will live. So think about that. All fish are cold-blooded. So that means that they respond to the temperature of the water. So their metabolism rate is based on what the temperature of the water is. So let me go back to this here. I'm trying to navigate this. I don't know how to do it. Holy cow. Is it possible for a largemouth bass to be too big for too long? No, it's not possible for a largemouth bass to be too big for too long that reduces the bass's lifespan. No. The bass's top end potential is based on several. Okay, so here's where we're going to go on that, Harrison. A largemouth bass's top end potential is based on its genetics, the latitude in which it lives, the amount of food that it has, the habitat in which it lives. And here's where habitat's real important. If a fish has to use up too much energy to gain weight, it's not going to reach its top end potential. So if you've got a bass that's running 2 miles a day, like a marathon runner, to be able to hit its potential to catch enough food, it won't reach its top end potential. So the bass has got to have the genetic propensity, the food chain, the right kind of habitat, the ability to navigate shorter distances, then and to live long enough. It's got to have some lifespan. If it's got all that, then it might be able to reach its potential. I'll tell you this. I don't know that I have ever met a bass that had the genetic propensity to grow huge that actually had the opportunity. Now let that soak in for a minute. Let that just digest that. I don't know that I've ever met a bass that had the genetic propensity and the opportunity and the lifespan to reach its potential. And here's the number one problem. If a bass has everything it needs to eat every day in the habitat to protect it, so it doesn't have to expend a huge amount of energy, then it's going to grow huge. That doesn't happen. You take that to the bank. Doesn't happen. Too much. There's too much. So these bass, and so like Bay Miltonberger's watching this show. Bay has stocked the best genetic fish. He's improved his habitat. He is building up his food chain. So his fish are going to have the best opportunity to grow huge if they have the great opportunity every single day. That's the hard part of this equation. So now I want to see if I can figure out how to navigate through all this stuff. Okay, let's see here. Oh, great questions here. Chris Chavette is in Orlando working. Chris, we need to talk. We have not talked in a while. Jeremy Day says, what do you recommend for sinking Christmas trees so they stand up straight? I got 60 from Lowe's, and I'm slowly sinking them. It's a ton of work. Yes, it is. It's a pain in the ass. So, well, all right. Here's what I'm going to tell everybody. Sounds easy. So my longtime friend, Cleon Allman, who's not with us anymore, you say, hey, Bob, sounds easy, does hard. So I'm going to make it sound easy. If you want to get some Christmas trees, cedar trees, whatever kind of evergreens, and put them in your pond, if you just drop them overboard and let them fall over, they're going to collapse and they're going to be gone. They're going to break down. They're going to be gone within 18 months to 3 years. But if you can make them stand up straight, you increase the lifespan and you increase the value of them as habitat. So what's kind of a pain in the ass is to get some 5-gallon buckets from Lowe's, or, well, since you bought them at Lowe's, get some 5-gallon buckets from Lowe's and take a chainsaw and cut off some of the bottom limbs and anchor those Christmas trees in a Lowe's bucket that's half full of concrete, and then drop them overboard from your boat. And if you can clump them together with 10 or 15 Christmas trees clumped together overboard, standing kind of like a little underwater forest, then you're going to create habitat that fish can actually use. But if you just pour them overboard, they're going to be gone just in a short span of time. Greg Galsup. I just built a 4-acre pond. How mey bass and bluegill do you recommend? I tell you what I recommend on that. It's based on your goals. So if your goals are that you want to use that 4-acre pond to be a bass fishing lake, then I would stock 4,000 bluegill, probably 40 pounds of fatheads, feed them for 6 or 8 months, and I don't know where you are. And then stock, 50 to 150 bluegill or bass per acre. Kind of depends on where you are. Latitude makes a difference. Mort Dyer, hashtag Pond Boss Magazine. Holy cow, I forgot to do this. Hashtag Pond Boss Magazine. Click like, share this video to your timeline. You're eligible for a drawing for a Pond Boss hat. and go back to this Pond Boss subscription, and that is Sarah Parvin's lake right there. This magazine's in a plastic bag. We ship them in a plastic bag. That's kind of a fun story. So back in the day, I don't know, 15 years ago, we started getting complaints from people that weren't getting their magazines. Well, we figured out that the mailman in those areas were capturing the magazine, taking it home, reading it, and then delivering it like a month later. That's kind of against the law, but I was totally flattered by that. So we ended up putting the magazines in plastic bags so that the pages didn't get torn and yada, yada, yada. So here you are. So let's see here. Life on the farm for family. Is there anything I can do now to reduce bushy pondweed growth once the water starts to warm back up? Water temperatures in the middle 40s with 57 inches of water clarity. You know what? Anything you can do now to reduce? Well, the way you reduce pondweed is you allow it to go dormant, and then when the water begins to warm up in the spring, make sure you've got some fertility in the water or stock grass carp to help graze that stuff down. So I don't know where you are, but stocking a few grass carp to help eat the bushy pondweed, that could be a good idea. Bay, don't do that. You've already got fish. William Scheidegger, I purchased 600 pounds of Aquamax MVP today for Dad's birthday. Oh, it's a gift. Over the course of the year, after all the time spent listening to your videos, over 2025, happy to watch live. Hey, I love that. Okay, so happy birthday to your dad. Tell him the Pond Boss says, good call. Because if you feed that Aquamax 600, that stuff, your fish are going to grow. Okay, William Scheidegger, American pondweed ends up in our lake over this past year. I only realized what it was due to your old stream vegetation on those willow-like leaves. How far should I let them go before? So here's how I'm going to answer that question. As long as you've got something less than 20% of the perimeter of your pond. No, I'm going to come another way. 20% of the surface area of a pond or less with pondweed, you're okay. But if you're going to have 20%, odds are high you're going to end up with 40%. So I'd be looking at stocking some triploid grass carp, or I'd be looking at, here's what I'm going to tell you. Monitor the growth rates of those plants when the water temperature hits 55 degrees, 60 degrees. Start monitoring your growth rates. Get a map of your lake, get out in a boat, and start plotting in on that map on a clipboard or electronically if you're that advanced. And once you start to see more than 15 or 20% of the perimeter of your lake covered with that pondweed, then you need to start doing something about it. I'd even start looking at stocking some triploid grass carp before that. Chad Lawyer, follow up. Biggest bass I've caught is 4.5 pounds. I have bluegill just under 11 inches. That's pretty good, dude. 11 inches. And have red ears. You have red ear 14 inches? Sheesh. I have no advice for you. You are the pond boss, dude, if you're doing that. The damn fishing guy. Gar ponds with gar. Really good for crappie and bass ponds for me in Oklahoma. Catch almost 3-pound crappie in the ponds I fish and only catch 8-pound bass. Well, that's because the gar are performing a purpose. They have a reason. And I absolutely love gar. Ron Ardoin. Let's see okay, John Dyer just texted me. Ask new viewers to comment. Hey, new viewers, comment. We have new viewers. Comment. Come on. This is a new deal. Okay, so Ron found trout. Thanks. So Ron and I had a conversation today. He's looking to try to find some trout to feed big bass. Ron is a coon ass from South Louisiana, Lake Charles, Lake Area Pond Management Company. Ron is a stud. And that guy is he's been a student for a long time. He's figuring out how to play the game. He's got this. He's designing new lakes. And he called me today looking for some trout, and he found some. Go Ron. Harrison Davis, the magazines are awesome. Make your better pond. See, look at that. We got a little testimony from Harrison Davis. Hey, here it is, Pond Boss. $35 a year, cheaper than a Friday night date. It lasts a year. If you have not subscribed, please do that. Go to pondboss.com. You can subscribe from there. Brian Burns checking in Nebraska. 60 degrees. Dude, it's freaking January. It should not be 60 degrees in Nebraska. No ice. I don't know what to say about that, other than it's wrong. William Scheidegger. We definitely need some new grass carp. They're getting old, and we'll be getting them slower sooner. Yep. So, Mort Dyer. Chad's killing it. Who's Chad? Greg Galsup. I'm in Coffeyville, Alabama. James. Hello, Jim Allen from Louisville, Kentucky. Jeremy Day. MVP is working. Caught late Jake bluegill record with a relative weight. Can you explain more? Yeah, I'll tell you why I like gar. I will absolutely love to tell you why I like gar. I love gar. Now, I don't necessarily love them in all pond situations, but gar, they've got to have moving water to reproduce, so they're not going to get in your pond and go spawn and overpopulate. But they live in shallow water. They live around vegetation. They can help cull small bass, and they're just prehistoric. They're just cool fish. That's why I love gar. I love gar. I mean, right out here, 100 yards from here is the Brazos River. Gar, spotted gar, alligator gar, long-nosed gar, they help dominate the entire river system here. But that's because that's why gar do what gar do. Gar love shallow water. They love moving water. They feed on small fish. But in a pond situation, the only time I see gar in a pond situation is when your water is compromised by local water sources, a creek or a pond. So Bay Miltonberger has gar in his lake. That's because he's on Gilmore Creek Lake, which feeds into the Bosque River, which feeds down into Waco, Lake Waco, which feeds into the Brazos River. That whole watershed has gar in it. And gar, they're in a pond situation, they're not typically invasive, but they're kind of a value-added fish to me. I love gar. They're prehistoric. It only takes a few spotted gar, folks, like 10 or so for 5 acres, maybe 20. I would not put more. Well, I don't ever stock gar, so I like gar where they're not invasive. And in most ponds and lakes that I manage, they're not invasive. They're just to me, they're a value-added fish, and they're pretty cool. So Bay Miltonberger, who's watching the show, like a 104-acre lake near Hyco, he's got gar. He sees them as invasive, which you know what? I get that. Because Bay's goal is to grow the biggest bass on the planet with good catch rates. So let's see here. It takes only a few spotted gar, folks, like 10 or so fit. Okay. I wouldn't recommend because they get too big. Those spotted gar, they don't get that huge in a small pond. Now, I don't think I've ever seen a gar bigger than 45 inches in a small pond. Mort Dyer says, do the warmer temperatures or fluctuating temps beyond normal through winter negatively or positively affect the growth or health heading into winter? Do the warm? Oh, you know what? That's a pretty thoughtful question, Mort. Do the warmer temps or fluctuate beyond normal? You know what? I love that question. That makes me think a little bit. I don't like fluctuating temperatures beyond normal. And I'll tell you why. When the water temperature goes up from normal, it kind of tricks the fish. It tricks them into thinking they need to feed more. But then all of a sudden the temperature falls. And when the temperature goes from warm to cold, that's distressing. That's stressful on a fish. And fish, especially fish that don't have scales like catfish, they have a tendency to be more susceptible to disease intervention or bacterial issues. It's stressful when the temperature goes from warm to cold to warm to cold to warm to cold. That's stressful on fish, and it absolutely can affect their growth rates. Great question. William Scheidegger, subscription for Pond Boss magazine. Excited to be able to read up. Which books of yours would you recommend for someone up in Northeastern Ohio, or if you started books of yours before I get to the whole collection? Buy all of them. My wife needs shoes. No, let me think about that. Let me give you a serious answer about that. I think Perfect Pond, want one? I think that's probably a pretty good choice. The fundamentals of pond management may be a better choice because the more you learn about all the fundamentals of pond management, that's how you can learn what you need to do about your pond. That damn fishing guy and crappie. If you want crappie pond and the pond is small, do you need gar? No, you don't need gar for a small pond for crappie. You just don't need crappie in a small pond. I'm gonna leave that laying right where it is. Hey, you know what? I've not done any commercials. It's already 8:14. You guys, this is very freaking cool. I may be missing some questions. You know what? Bear with me because this is my first time on YouTube live, and I'm gonna do the best I can. So, Texas Hunter products, look them up. Not only do I love Texas Hunter products, I love their customer service. So check those guys out. I mean, they got great fish feeders, they've got great fish habitat, great wildlife feeders, deer blinds. Those guys, and working with Cody Borgfeld. Cody came to the last Institute of Pondology. I got a feeling he's going to be sending some of his guys up for the next one. So if you guys really, really, really want to learn more about Texas Hunter products, come to the next Pond Boss Institute of Higher Pondology. Write a check, $1,500, hang out for 2.5 days. Come hang out with Sarah Parvin. She's coming. And we're going to have an outstanding curriculum, 15-acre lake, 2 hatchery ponds, hanging out with me. Talk to Jacob West about that. Talk to my wife about that. No, seriously, we have a whole lot of fun, highly educational. I promise you, the amount of money that you spend at the Institute of Higher Pondology, you will save by not paying the dumb tax. If you know what the dumb tax is, you deserve to pay it. Birddogit.com. Check that out. Birddogit.com. If you just bought some land and you need some tax advantages, you need to talk to those guys. That's my son, Jonathan Lusk, that started that company. Purina Mills, Aquamax Sport Fish, David Schneiderman, Easy Docks of Texas. Check out Easy Docks of Texas. Pondboss.com. We have a great discussion forum. $35 a year for a subscription, all kinds of free articles, a lot of good stuff. Okay, let me back up here. Holy cow. I'm getting a little bit behind. Chris Chivetta, we're determining the best habitats to install this year. Still trying to get our bait fish quantities up. Do you like stake beds or the habitat cubes? Yeah, I like all that stuff, Chris. I love the bait fish quantities. I love stake beds. I love the cubes. But you know what? Here's the way I see that. The way I see that is to take a look at which lake that you want to improve, see what it has, and then come up with a game plan to improve what's missing. That's the way I see it. So if that particular lake is missing habitat to grow some great bait fish, then you focus on that. If it's missing habitat to congregate sport fish, focus on that. So the way I look at that is each lake stands on its own merit, and I'm looking at happy water habitat. Habitat is this: it's all the different species of fish, size classes of fish. They have the right habitat so they can thrive at all those different sizes. So I'm getting a whole lot of text. We'll pass on it. So Bill Shrum, let's see here. Getting all kinds of stuff here I can't read. Okay, so Bill Shrum, Oklahoma, I'm in year 3 like Jason. I'm going to have an electrofishing survey this year for largemouth bass bluegill with the goal of high catch rates for largemouth bass. What should the largemouth bass bluegill to be for a 2-year pond? 10-1. 10 bait fish for every bluegill. So 10 pounds of bait fish for every pound of forage fish. And Bill, before you do that electrofishing survey, give me a call. Oh, here. Mort Dyer is Bill Dyer, is Mark Dyer from Louisiana. Nebraska. Yeah. Bowling Ifty. I'm also playing electrofishing survey. Ron Ardwin, my electrofishing boat is being built. Should be ready in February. I'll bring the baby food for you. Look at that. I had no idea. That Ron was building an electrofishing boat. If there's any old magazines, I know you sell them. I believe at $9.95. Would I be able to email you and get? Yeah, sure. You know what? Yeah. Just email me, Scheidegger, and I'm always willing to make a deal. You better believe if I can get some $1,500 in plain money that doesn't go to the bass, and I'll find my way to what? Yeah, you know what? And you know what, Scheidegger, call me. I've always been known to make a deal. Ask Bill Shrum. He knows. My phone's chirping. This is my first time keeping it alive. Can't be able to catch one of your lives, but I've been soaking up so much from all the videos. Recent subs in the magazine as well. Definitely. Great. Cool. All right. Sweet. John Dyer saw that Mark Flesher posted. Yes, Mark did post it. I saw that. Expand on that. Okay. I know where John Dyer is going, so oh, there's so much shit going through my head right now. Excuse me, stuff going through my head right now. Why does it keep popping up ads for hair loss? I have no idea. Dude, I have hair. I'm not losing any hair. No hair loss here. Go up before the Bill Shrum post. Bowling Ifty. Go. I've skipped this quick. Okay, I've skipped. What? Okay, so let me back up. I've skipped a question. Hey, bear with me, dog. This is my first time doing this. Okay, I'm backing up. Coffeyville, Alabama, Greg Gossip. Okay. I don't know who Chad is and Mort Dyer. What's up, Nonk? What about trout ponds? Oh, Lord, here I am missing a whole bunch of damn questions. Sheesh. Okay, Jiminy Cripes. I need an executive assistant to wade through all this stuff. Otters and gar. You know what? Don't get pissed off at me if I miss a question because I'm figuring out how to deal with all this stuff. Let me go back down here. Hold up. Bowling Ifty. Sheesh. Go up before Bill Sean post. You've skipped my question twice. Nice little pissy. Go up before the Bill Sean post. Bowling Ifty. I'm also planning on electrofishing in the spring. That's a good idea. Electrofish. I like that. Oh, wait. Here's a message deleted by the Palm Boss. Okay. You know what? It says there's a message. I didn't delete any questions. Hell, I don't know what's going on here. Message. I deleted nothing. Okay. I do not want to do this. Bear with me. I'm looking, freaking looking. This is Jason. Oh, shit, Jason. Different screen rates, finish up with 2 years talking. Here gets interesting year 3. What should I be looking for? Oh, so Jason Dodd's getting a little pissy. Okay, what you should be looking for is your fish losing weight. Don't pull that on me, dog. That's what you should be looking for in year 3. Your fish losing weight. You should be looking at the year classes of your bait fish declining. You should be looking at your game fish not gaining as they should. Is that the question you're asking me? My first venture into freaking YouTube. All right, I'm scrolling down. Yep. So, Jason, bowling ifty? Did I answer your question? All right, Mark Hicks from North Cackalack. Why do my bluegill spawn only on the east side and south side? Oh, that's a great question. Is it because the amount of sunlight hitting the water and warming it faster? It is absolutely about the amount of sunlight hitting your pond. Has nothing to do with temperature. So the angle of the dangle of the sun absolutely does have an influence on how bluegills spawn. So that's actually a really, really thoughtful question. Why do my bluegills spawn only on the east and south side? It's because the angle of the sun coming across the sky during that time of year. There you go. Ron says, nonk, which is like uncle. That's the way the Cajuns look at it. Okay, so I am sipping on a pecan whiskey from, oh hell, what's the name? What's the name of there's a local distillery here, and that's what I'm doing. It's a pecan-based bourbon or whiskey. I'm not late watching for The Bachelor. Dude, if you were a Bachelor fan, you'd know it was over. Debbie watches the Senior Bachelor, whatever that is, and then she watches them on all the dadgum Facebook Lives or whatever the hell it is. Okay, so we pretty well tromped through our first hour. Okay, so I'm seeing it only takes a few. Yeah, okay. Holy cow. I'm getting tired of looking at all this stuff. I'm trying to figure it out. So where was I? So we've waded through our first YouTube live video. I'm not trying to be snippy. Snippy? How to feed train hybrid striped bass in a 3/4? Feed them. You should see them. When you buy hybrid striped bass, they are going to be feed trained. I don't care what anybody else tells you. When you buy those fish, they're feed trained. So the more consistent you are with the feed, the more likely they are to respond to it because they are feed trained. Should I put my aerator bubbler in the deepest part of my quarter acre pond? You should do that in the summertime. I don't know where you are, but in the wintertime, I don't know that I'd even be running it. Not trying to be snippy. The last few months, my bass have been upwards of 125%. That's not snippy. That's bragging. Some as big as 4 pounds after year two. Does losing weight mean going? Does losing weight mean going back? No, you know what? Let me think how to answer that. Jason, Snippy, Dodd. The last few months, my bass have been upwards of 100. Yeah, well, you're bragging now. Some as big as 4 pounds after year two. That's a pretty big deal. Dude, I'm telling you, you have done this great. You have followed good advice. You have pushed through, and you guys are on a great track. Does losing weight mean going? No. Losing weight means going back to 110. I don't know what. Okay. Mort Dyer, John Dyer. Our HOA would like to purchase a fight net and a gill net to catch a carpet, gizzard, shad, etc. What size of net mesh should I be targeting to purchase? 2 inches. 2 inches. I think that's the way you need to go. So, guys, you know what? We've waded through our very first YouTube Live. And John Dyer has kind of been the fuel behind this. He's been the one to suggest it and say it's what we need to do. And you know what? I'm all in. So I'm going to end up here tonight and just wrap it up. Have a little bit more pecan bourbon from this distillery right around the corner. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Hang on. I'll be right back. Don't go away. Okay. So here's what I'm sipping. There it is right there. Sledge Distillery. It's really good. And Bay, it's not too far from your place. So, guys, I really appreciate you hanging out. I'm not sure where I'll Tuesday, but I got a pretty good feeling it's going to be hanging out with you guys. So, adios for now, and we will see you Tuesday.